Welcome to this session, which is a joint initiative between the SDG Summit of CSR Europe and the G-STIC conference. My name is Karel Franken. I am Research Manager at Vito and the Chairman of the Circular Economy track at G-STIC. I'm happy that the digital technology helps us to set up connections between conferences. I do believe that we can do more to connect expert groups and conferences. That we need to exchange lessons learned between communities. It's always refreshing to broaden your audience and reach out to broader communities beyond your own domain. This session closes the Circular Economy track of the G-STIC conference and the SDG Summit. We will discuss how digitalisation will enable a circular economy and a more sustainable society. We look in particular at the connections between the European Green Deal and the European Industrial Strategy. These key policy documents for the post-corona period are driven by the Circular Economy Action Plan and the Digital Europe programme. We also make a link to the new European Raw Materials Alliance, which provides an investment platform to reduce the import dependency of the European economy. For this, we will bring together international experts in circularity and digitalisation for an exchange of knowledge, expertise and vision. We will have two introductory speeches. They will set the scope for a debate with representatives from industry, from Epson and Huawei. Our first speaker is Signe Ratzo. She is Deputy Director General of DG Research and Innovation of the European Commission. And I welcome her to this session and give her the floor. Hello, Ms. Ratzo. Thank you for joining in our session, and you have the floor.
Hello. Good morning, everybody, dear participants of this conference, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to participate at this important event. The Sustainable Development Goals have always been guiding the European Commission's efforts. They provide the mental setting for all our activities under the Green Deal. Let me remind all of us why we adopted the Green Deal. It is actually the realization that since the middle of the last century, the great acceleration of the economy has led to a great acceleration in environmental degradation. This degradation reaches such magnitude and dimension that the fundamental physical and biological systems of the planet Earth are on the brink of collapse. The climate is the most discussed Earth system in danger, but along with the climate change, we see ecosystem disintegration, biodiversity decline, nutrients overload in soil and water, and pollution of many kinds. All of them at global scale and at unprecedented levels. The Green Deal is a policy response to science, telling us about the humanity crossing planetary boundaries, and citizens asking us to ensure well-being for them, for their children and grandchildren. The great acceleration should continue in the terms of human needs, but decelerate quickly in terms of environmental damage and degradation. This objective actually has many facets, and it must be approached in a holistic way. This is why we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals and more than 180 targets. And this is why the Green Deal has also several dimensions, ranging from climate to biodiversity to pollution, but also at housing, industry and food system. I want to speak about one particular dimension of the Green Deal, which is closely related to responsible consumption and production, which is the 12th goal of SDGs. It is about how we use natural resources to produce feedstock and materials that are turned into useful products through industrial processes and finally used by consumers. By the way, in Europe, we use some 8 gigatons of materials. And if we apply that amount at a global level, then we would need more than one planet to supply all the materials and energy needed. Out of this 8 gigatons, we convert less than half into societal stock, that is, into durable products like our houses, infrastructure, or consumer products. A majority of the materials actually ends up as waste and is deposited, combusted, or dissipated in another way. Only a small part, less than 10% of our total material need, is returning back and used in the economy. This process of extracting, processing, producing, and consuming of materials and products is responsible for 1/4 of GHG emissions in Europe and 1/3 globally, alongside with the damage to valuable ecosystems and pollution. As a result, our production and consumption's environmental footprint is enormous. So the solution that the Green Deal proposes is to accelerate transitions to circular economy. Fundamentally, it is a revolution in the way how we see and use materials. The objective is to maintain the economic value of materials and minimize environmental impacts. Circular economy rejects the linear take, make, waste model and adopts a regenerative model where all materials and products circulate in such a way that minimum of material is wasted and dissipated outside of the economy. This approach also includes material efficiency, that is, using less material to get the same or higher utility from products, and replacement of high impact materials with low impact materials, such as renewable bio-based materials. According to a recent McKinsey study, 60% of human material needs can be supplied by bio-based materials, which is quite a lot. Circular economy is essentially an innovation process. The current production systems were optimized for linear economy. Now, transition to circular economy will require novel materials, but it will also require products with new design, new technology, and production process, but also new business and governance model. No company can become circular alone. It is not companies that become value chains and material flows in which many economic actors act together to ensure circularity and efficiency. And each of these actors has to innovate in his, her own way, and they have to innovate together as a system. Because of this, I see no difference between circular economy policy implementation and innovation. Circular innovation will stimulate innovation, but it will also depend on innovation in other sectors. For example, circular economy will require decarbonized energy. We will still need energy-intensive materials such as metals, but circularity requires waste into useful secondary materials, which also needs energy for technological processes and logistics. To reduce the energy and carbon footprint of circular economy, circular transition has to go hand in hand with the energy transition. Another related sector, which is also discussed now in this session and that will play a key role in circular transformation, is digital. In circular economy, where many actors have to act independently but towards a common objective, information on what actors upstream and downstream do to enable circularity, well, including also retailers and consumers, this all influences individual decisions and the way how actors contribute to the overall circularity of the value chain. Information on environmental performance of products delivered through digital tools can empower consumers who will drive the demand for better and more circular solutions. Now, to achieve this, value chains have to be populated with the information that facilitates circular collaboration, but does not infringe on intellectual properties and competition. And this can be achieved at large scale only with digital innovation. And it's clear that artificial intelligence and blockchain technology will play an important role here. So now, if circular transformation is innovation, I hope you agree with me. Now, how can I support it? Can I support it on behalf of the EU? We have decided to use the Horizon Europe program, the next research and innovation framework program, to become a vehicle to accelerate transformation and help to implement the Circular Economy Action Plan. We will still continue to fill in the knowledge gaps and develop scientific technological solutions. But we will increasingly put emphasis on experimentation with large scale and systemic solutions. And that's why you will see more projects of regional demonstration of circular innovation. A good example of such approach is the regional industrial circularity hubs or the Circular Cities and Regions Initiative. The Green Deal call, which was launched a few weeks ago, already includes research and innovation topics of this kind. We will also focus on important material streams and sectors highlighted in the Circular Economy Action Plans. These include plastics, construction materials, electronics, textiles, also those that we identified as growing in their importance. We will also support the development of bio-based materials and creation market. Many of our future activities will aim at bringing mature innovation to the market. Grants to demonstration and flagship projects is a good example, but we will go a step further to use financial instruments to de-risk investment into market applications. A good example of such an instrument is the Circular Bioeconomy Investment Fund, in which Director General Research and Innovation, the European Investment Bank, and private investors blend their money to enable viable but not yet bankable circular projects. Many more funds for investment into circular innovations will be available in the InvestEU, structural funds, and the Recovery and Resilience Facility. Now, just to conclude, I will conclude here and I will listen very attentively to presentations of other speakers. Really, I'd like to hear how the private sector will contribute to the circular transition, and in particular, how the digital sector is prepared to play its role. Your participation in circular innovation is critical, and I hope we designed our plans in the way that will provide the best support. So your suggestions and feedback on our plans are very much welcome. Thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to a profound and interesting session.
Thank you very much for this very clear introduction, Ms. Razzo. Thank you for introducing the principles of circular economy, the idea of the coupling with digital, and also to set the link with your innovation program. On the stage now, we will get Holger Berg. We have a short presentation before we dive into the debate with the people from the industry. Holger Berg is a co-head of the Digital Transformation Research Unit in the Department of Circular Economy at the Wuppertal Institute. His main interests relate to the possibilities and influences of digital transformation on sustainable development. And he also specifically looks at the link to digital circular economy. Holger teaches business ethics and acts as a coach for startups. And he's the main author of a recent white paper of ESCERA, the European Circular Economy Research Alliance, on digital circular economy. Holger will represent the key recommendations of the paper that has just been published this morning via the G-STIC website, and which I invite you all to have a look at. Holger, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carl, and good morning, everyone in Brussels and on the screens. Indeed, I would like to highlight a couple of findings that we present in the white paper. And I would like to draw also from the input that we received for the last 3 days in the G-STIC conference, which I think very much lend themselves to illustrate our findings. So our first hypothesis, a sustainable, resource-efficient, and climate-neutral circular economy is that it will be inherently digital. It will be digital for 2 reasons. we're going to live in and is digital. The second one concentrates more on the circular economy itself. As we've just heard, the circular economy is going to be different from the linear take, make, waste scheme that we have in many instances today. And for a circular economy, we need more and we need different information and data than we do in the old scheme. So if we want to use our products and materials longer, for example, by predictive maintenance, we need more information, we need data about the use, abuse, abrasion, about the experiences that products and materials made in their lifetime to keep them live longer. And the same goes for practices like remaining, what to replace, what to repair, and what to measure to know if a product can live longer. And then for recycling, the same holds. We need to know about the qualities, the capabilities that function and but in very many areas there are already innovations coming, and there are already bottom-up works ongoing, from agriculture to industry and to waste management. What we need is also a systemic approach to upscale the circular economy. And as I've just said, if we want to enable material and product cycles, we need different data. And we need to be able to mature that data, to collect it, to analyze it, and transfer it where it is needed. Not just within companies, but also between companies, supply chains, and even between different supply chains, because one material, one product may move from one to the other. From that, we will also see new business models of distributing, and we also need new modes of logistics. And then finally, we can also find new ways and introduce new ways of orchestrating. Digital will help us to unveil patterns that we have not been able to see before, patterns of use, patterns of distribution. It will allow us to make needs match better, for example, in the distribution of recyclates, but also in the question of which product do I need at which time? Can I use a refurbished product for what I'm doing now? It will hence improve our knowledge on what we do and how we can do it better. And in that, it will also inform and enable a more effective policy and administration, very much in the way of a constant improvement process. So this is the upside of digital circular economy. And again, we have seen some of those principles already working over the last days. But with a world that is inherently digital, that uses digital to create the circular economy, it also means that the digital realm, the digital technologies, have to work to that same principles. That is, we need to have a circular digital economy as well. We need to create a digital world that is adhering to the principles of circular economy. So, for example, we need devices that are modular and standardized so that we can repair them, so that they can be long graded. We need business models that do not work on the basis of how much products are created and sold, but on the services they provide so that they can be used longer, and that there is a clear incentive on all sides to use them longer. And we need products that enable that are enabled for recycling and that are constructed in a way that they can be recycled. The needs really to create a digital circular economy that is resource efficient and climate neutral. Data spaces stored safely, where it can be accessed safely, and where access is for those who are entitled to see the data. For a circular economy, we may also need a different way to look at data and specifically to look at the openness and sharing of data. We need standardized technologies and standardized ways of transferring data. That is, we need machines to be more able to talk to other machines. We need products to be able to talk to products and to us, so we can use them better, more efficiently, and longer. For that, digital twins and passports are a way. That is, products. We therefore need to introduce circular economy for technologies and for businesses, combining business models with products, processes of materials, of products themselves, and of their end of life. And with that, we can also use the knowledge that we gain, the data and the information that we retrieve to improve the process of creating and upscaling the circular economy. Because we can also inform policymakers and decision makers better, faster, and more efficient. And with that, I'd like to thank you. And we're looking very much forward to doing more research in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Holger, for this nice explanation. Let me maybe also first introduce the structure of this session. We will now have a first short debate in which we ask panel members from industry to respond to the two opening keynote presentations. And then we will go to a second round where first we'll have a presentation by the European Raw Materials Alliance, and that will be followed by a short response by Holger again. And then we will go into a Q&A session where also you as an audience can provide us with questions towards the industry panelists, towards Holger Berg, and towards the representative of the ERMA. So please send us also your questions in the Q&A. So with that, I would like now to introduce the two members of our industry panel. Unfortunately, the third member, Mr. Ernesto Chiora, called in sick this morning. This is what happens, of course, these days. So we see ourselves forced to reduce the panel to two representatives. And the first representative of industry is Henning Olsson. Henning is Sustainability Director at Epson Europe, a company developing printing, projection, wearable and robotic technologies. As Sustainability Director, Henning Olsson aims at reinforcing the environmental benefits of the Epson product range and leads initiatives that promote companies and its employees' commitment to sustainable values and environmental responsibilities. And our other speaker is Walter Weigel. Walter Weigel is the Vice President of European Research Institute of Huawei. Welcome, Mr. Weigel. After having worked as assistant professor at the Institute of Data Processing at the Technical University of Munich, he moved into telecom business, and from there he joined Huawei in 2015. So with this, I think we have a very strong and a very nice panel. And we want to hear more from the industry representatives how they think that digitalization can accelerate the transition to a circular economy, and also how their own innovation agenda is working in this field. How do they make the link between digital and circular economy, and maybe also some hints towards research and innovation. What would they like to see on the program of the European Commission and on the research and innovation agenda? So with those starting points, I would ask first Mr. Weigel to give us a short update of his vision, and then after that we'll go to Mr. Olsson. Mr. Weigel, please.
All right. Carl, can you hear me clearly?
It's all perfect, thank you.
Good. All right. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. And as you already said, I'm the Vice President of the European Research Organization. We call it European Research Institute of Huawei. We have, by the way, to say a little bit about our European footprint, why we so really carefully are looking how we can support the European goals. We are currently altogether about 15,000 employees in Europe, and about 2,000 are here in the Research Institute in more or less every membership country of the EU, and including UK for sure. Now, for us, sustainability is, as a goal in the company, very, very important, independent now of the Green Deal, because it's clear we have only one planet. And we have, for instance, initiated, we have our own Huawei sustainability report to give you first, before I go into research, a high-level view. We have an internal goal from 2012 as the 100% 0 point to the end of this year to reduce our CO2 footprint by 30%. And I can tell you we are on a good way to reach this. And I think I have not heard yet, there's a big discussion, even the public now overshadowed by the virus, that so many returned goods, because many people don't go to the shop anymore. They use Amazon and Co. And then they don't like it and they return the goods. And we also looked into this as we are here. Where is it? So can I say we are not only the biggest phone manufacturer in the world, but so to say a European one. So just to let you know, we are very concerned about this, and we have currently ramped up when we get products back that we are currently reusing 82% of the components. So that's also a very important factor, I think, in circular economy. Now, we see three general directions. What can we do? One is certainly what can we do directly. I will give you a little bit of examples about, for instance, reducing the materials impact, so the real circular economy. Then what can we do for our customers in our products, what I call a direct contribution as well, because it will then help, for instance, by reducing the power consumption here. I will come back. And the third one is what was already mentioned, to support digitalisation. And I will give you a few examples where we try to be an enabler with our technology to do exactly this. So first about materials. For instance, in research, you can imagine we are looking first of all in functionality. And I keep to this because not everybody has seen a base station, we're just using it, but everybody's using a phone. So these are simpler examples to understand. And when you scratch the surface or it falls down and it's broken, what happens? Many people, they just throw it away and it goes hopefully into recycling. They buy a new one. This is not really sustainable. It may be good for our business, but it's not sustainable. So for instance, in research, we are looking into here different materials, this is currently glass, which don't break so easy, which are very scratch resistant. And if it falls down, you can still use it and you don't need to think, do I get it repaired or do I throw it away? We are looking very much in using bioplastics. We have actually used already a lot of bioplastics, and we try always to compute, as I said in our sustainability report, what's the impact? Because if you do it, that's not enough. You need to know, has it any lever? And for 2018, I have the figures. By using bioplastics, we reduced about 600 tons of CO2 equivalent. And we also did a lot in lightweight packaging, because whether small goods like the phone or a big base station, they are obviously packed. And we have meanwhile reduced the weight by 20%, because this reduces then the transport CO2 impact. We are reusing, since the beginning of last year, all the packaging, about 1,100 tons. And in logistics, we are using meanwhile aircraft pallets in shipping, which are 50% lighter, about 800 tons per year. Then about, I know time is up, products. We have about 410 million users in the EU. In average use, we think that about 4,100 megawatt hours per day are consumed energy by all, not our Huawei phones, all the phones. So what we have done is we are using UK-based ARM processors, which are very low in power consumption. And we have put in for AI applications what we call neuromorphic chip. It's a neural network semiconductor chip, which is specialized, very low power consumption, and so we could reduce it by 30%. Let me give two more examples. One, big data centers. They have easily 20, 30 megawatts. It's like a mid-sized town. And maybe you know that about 40% of the energy is not going into the computers, it's going into the cooling because they're getting very hot. And we are working here again by reducing the power consumption, intelligent cooling using AI. And we have reduced here by about 15% what is called the efficiency factor. Then about telecommunications, I know there's a lot of discussion, not only politically about 5G and my company, but also about power consumption. Let's be very clear, there are physics as well, but the bit per second, which you have in a 5G system base station, in a 4G system, 10% less in 5G, the bit per second. For sure, it will use much more than physics apply. And last not least, coming back on the indirect ones, I wanted to let you know, we have, for instance, a field trial in UK with British Telecom about ICT for communities, so even to digitalize communities. Two other examples, smart traffic to reduce the CO2 emissions by the cars, which are always in standstill because they're in traffic jams. We have a field trial in Torino and in Duisburg in Germany, where we manage with our systems and artificial intelligence the traffic flow. I stop here. I wanted to say one thing. We are a company. We have to make profit. So I liked, Holger, what you said. We need also to look at the business models. So in our view, we will fully support the Green Deal. We love it. But we have to be careful. Now I'm speaking as European passport holder, that our industry is not finally in a business which is very expensive, and if the rest of the world is not joining in, then we will jeopardize the business possibilities of European companies. And I think we should also have a look here. And I stop.
Thank you.
Sorry
Thank you very much for these examples and for your point of view. Let us move to Henning Olsen and get his 3 minutes presentation, and then hope we have some time left for the other speakers to respond. Henning, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for letting me into this discussion here. 3 minutes, that is tight. But I see, Carl, that you are still using paper and a pencil. Yeah, beside your digital device. Yeah, that's good. So there's still hope. Responding to the previous presenters here, yes, circular economy is innovation. Yeah, absolutely, and that is Epson. Yeah, I will speak a little bit about digital innovations as well. Yes, we are a company. We have to make profit, as you said, Walter. Yeah, but at Epson it says profit with purpose. So sustainability is fully integrated into our management philosophy. As a Japanese company, yeah, that's in the DNA anyway. Nature, sustainability, recycling, reuse. This is the Japanese society as well. So we have a long-term vision. 2050 vision, and this says, yes, we're going for sustainability in a circular economy, and we are fully committed to the SDGs. You see, SDGs, and the SDGs are guiding us as a compass through the business. Let me address let's say a more private word. We are in the Corona crisis, in the middle of the Corona pandemic right now, but we will face a much stronger crisis, that is the climate crisis. So taking the learnings now out of the pandemic crisis, into the way we do business, into the way we communicate, into the way we look at health and safety for the next upcoming crisis, we can probably avoid various things. And therefore, the SDGs are helping. If we speak now about SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, that is all linked. That is linked to climate action. Reducing the burden into the environment is via material use, of course, yeah, but we need to do everything with the use of renewable energies. So you spoke about data centers, for example. I hope this conference that is fully virtual is carbon neutral, yeah? So Carl, you can check that later on, yeah, if that is the case, yeah. But we are consuming a lot of energy right now while we speak digitally, yeah. So that was on the introduction from my side. Epson is good.
Yeah.
We say we are good. As of yesterday, we got a ESG rating from EcoVadis that put us into the platinum rating. And this represents 1% of our ITC industry. So if others say we are better than good, I'm happy to say, yes, Epson is good. But
thank you very much.
But we go for getting better day on day on day. And I can give you a lot of examples linked to our technology that can be seen as contributors to digital circular economy. And for sure, never forget about these are climate actions.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for the examples that you've been given. I hear that both of you refer to the energy production, renewable energy, but also the energy use of the products that you are producing. Also in relation to the materials that you're using, like the bioplastics. Maybe let's hear back to Ms. Razzo. How you see this? What type of challenges do you see from this industry perspective, and how is this tackled within the research and innovation programs?
Well, first of all, I was really happy to hear that SDGs are a compass for the company like Epson. Well, clearly, this is something that we aim at. And certainly, also, if you have circularity by design, which is part of your production processes, then you can also have the competitive advantage over the other companies who are doing that much later than you do. So I think it would also make sense from the business point of view. Now, I already spoke how we support now already in the current program via the Green Deal call these actions and what are the plans also for the future. But while the focus of this session is clearly on industrial activities, I think we also need to contextualize because circularity includes civil society. It includes also the consumers, the people, the citizens. Circular value chains must also include designers, material sourcing, manufacturers, retailers, consumers, NGOs, CSOs, repairers, secondary markets, recyclers. So basically, we need to embrace them all. And another point that I'd like to make is that smart solutions are often seen as synonym for digital solutions. But technology per se is not smart. So it's really important what we use digital technology for. And clearly data, information management, artificial intelligence can also contribute to sustainability, namely through consumer and help also establish trust and new forms of cooperation. That's why also in our new program, we also pay a lot of attention to citizen engagement so that we already design together with them and implement together with them. Because it's quite clear that without the citizens, the green transformation and digital transformation simply will not happen. I think it's also important to bear that in mind.
That's a very interesting point. Thank you for that. And maybe we can check back with the companies how they see this link to the consumer, which in circular business, of course, becomes rather a user than a consumer. How do you tackle that in the approach of the markets? Mr. Olsen, maybe?
Yes, please. It's quite an interesting approach. You don't necessarily need to own a printer. If I go into the printing industry right now, there's a lot of services around. We are offering, for example, managed print services for the companies, where you pay for the print, or you pay for the management of the print environment or document environment in your company. Same with the consumers. From the hardware side, that's quite clear. No longer the strategy on expensive cartridges. Waste reduction on that side. You have a ink tank system, eco tank called at Epson, and you can refill the tanks of the hardware. With that, you don't necessarily need to own that printer. You can have a subscription, and you pay monthly for your prints. And this is an important solution right now for the consumers in homeschooling, pandemic shutdown, and so far. Printing the schooling student material. It's not necessarily that you own that printer. You have a reliable device, hardware, and you keep it as long as possible in the value chain.
And for Huawei, is there also such approaches in your approach to consumers?
Yeah, actually, we have in Milan and Italy, part of our research center is dealing with exactly the consumer products, so smartphones, watches, wristbands, to see what the consumer is actually looking for. And I would like to say, I think we all together need to make I'm talking about end consumer, not about B2B business. We need to make together the people more aware that this is a factor, maybe for their decision to buy one or the other product. Currently, what I hear from our manager is it's very much about obvious technical topics. So the size of the display, the quality of the display, quality of the camera, certainly lifetime of the battery, but in terms, can I use it 5 hours, 10 hours, or 20 hours, independent whether then the battery and the power consumption is very big. So these are very obvious things what people would like to see. And by the way, there is now obviously kind of wave coming that they're asking also for sensors because they're getting used, for instance, to wristbands or to watches, which can, for instance, measure your heartbeat. And so this kind of health functions, this is also a request. But unfortunately, it's not yet from the consumer in the street, so to say, a big request saying, yes, and please, I look, is the material recyclable and what have you done to reduce the CO2 footprint? I think we all together have to make the end consumer here more aware.
Okay, thank you.
And let me say on B2B, this is certainly different because like what I said, if for a telecom network, the OPEX, the operational costs are usually very high, as you can imagine, and the electricity bill is one of the main factors. So if we do something here, the customer certainly loves it, also for business reasons, and then you have a win-win situation because you reduce CO2 and you give him a advantage.
Thank you very much. Let's turn last time to Ms. Razzo to end this first part of our panel session. Ms. Razzo, maybe you have some concluding remark about the things that you've heard, some final word before you need to leave us.
Well, many thanks for the invitation. So it was a pleasure to participate in this session, and clearly it was also encouraging to hear what the businesses are doing on their side already. But I guess we need a kind of a leapfrog now approach, namely that we also have the systemic approach in order to really manage the green and digital transitions. And what was also shown earlier, all these components will be important for the businesses, but also engaging with the society at large. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for this. And so then we switch to the second part of our debate. Thank you again for being present here with us. In the second part, we have a new introductory speaker who is Massimo Gaspar. Massimo is the Innovation Director of the EIT Raw Materials. He's here to replace Bernd Schaefer, the CEO of EIT Raw Materials, who had a meeting at the European level. Massimo is coordinating the funding program of EIT Raw Materials, one of the European Knowledge and Innovation Communities, or KICs. He has been a professor of geochemistry at the School of Earth Sciences in the University of Queensland in Australia, and I've also seen that he is been at the poles and worked at the poles as well. Very interesting. But now he's here to tell us about the European Raw Material Alliance. Welcome, Massimo, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Carl, and good afternoon and good morning to everybody. I hope you can hear me loud and clear, and I'll just wait for my presentation to appear on the screen before I can move forward. I'll just say that the European Raw Materials Alliance was launched on the 29th of September, so we are a very new kid on the block. It was launched by Vice President Maroš Šefčovič and Commissioner Breton. So it is an initiative that is coordinated by the European Commission and is managed by the raw materials community at EIT, which is the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. We need an alliance because there will be an immense increase in demand for minerals and metals in the next 30 years. For example, if we look at the electric passenger cars, we are moving from around just over 1 million in 2015. The prediction is that this demand will increase to almost 1 billion in 2050, which means an increase factor of almost 1,000 times. And the same can be said for other very important items that are needed for the transition to the circular economy and for the achievement of the ambitious goals set in the Green Deal. The key point here is that this demand, certainly it will not come only from mining, it cannot come only from recycling, it cannot come only from resource efficiency, and not only from substitution. All these things need to be combined to achieve this demand and so that we are able to supply our next generations with all the goods that they need and that they wanted to have. And raw materials are absolutely essential to this transition. And another very important key point to remember at this stage is that many of these materials are not in the cycle yet because they have not been used in past technologies. So many of them are very new, so many of them need to be obtained from a primary source such as mining. So the key message here is that indeed, if we want to move from the brown economy, so from the left-hand side of this slide to the green economy, we need to source these materials. And Europe is relatively weak from this point of view because we don't have them in-house. Much of them are imported from elsewhere, they are sourced from elsewhere. And as recent events have taught us, it is very easy to disrupt our supply chains and therefore create problems for our industrial ecosystems. When we look at specifically raw materials, the different industrial ecosystems that are underpinned by them are highlighted in green in this slide. So we have certainly aerospace and defense, electronics, mobility is a very important one, low carbon energy intensive, renewable energy, health, digital and construction. Of course, the other industrial ecosystems are also partly dependent on them, but definitely these 8 are the most important ones. And when we look at the total value of these industrial ecosystems from Europe, it is quite substantial. So if we look back in 2017, they provided about 1.8 trillion of value add and around 29 million jobs. The prediction is that by 2030, those 8 industrial ecosystems will underpin around 2 trillion euros of value add and 32 million jobs. So the real question that we need to ask ourselves is not what is the cost of achieving some sort of independence in terms of raw materials, but what would be the cost of not having achieved this level of dependence? And this is really why the European Raw Materials Alliance was established. The acronym of it is ERMA. The vision is to secure a sustainable supply of raw and advanced materials for the EU's industrial ecosystems to support the transition to the circular economy and to the green economy. And the key word here is a sustainable supply of raw and advanced materials, not just any materials, but sustainable. The goals of the Alliance are to bolster the creation of environmentally sustainable and socially equitable innovations in infrastructure. So 2 important points are here. One is the emphasis on innovation, so on research and technology, but also on the creation of new infrastructure that is environmentally and socially sustainable. Of course, by doing this, the ambition of the Alliance is to implement a circular economy of complex products. And here the concept of the design for the circular economy becomes particularly important. And again, to achieve some level of independence, we will need to support Europe's raw materials industry capacity to extract, design, manufacture, and recycle materials. And the last goal, of course, is to promote innovation, strategic investment, and industrial production with a very strong focus on strategic investment. We are going to do that through 2 different work streams. So one is going to be a very open and very transparent, very wide consultation process, whereby we will bring together stakeholders from industry, academia, research organizations, non-government organizations, regional and national governments, both from within Europe and outside, to really identify what the challenges are. What is not working now? What can we do better? Where do we need to put our resources to achieve resilience, a higher level of resilience, and guarantee the supply of raw materials for Europe's industrial ecosystems? So that we can then make recommendations to the commissions and overcome those challenges. The second work stream is focused on specific investment cases. There are many ideas out there, there are many projects out there that are ready to start, and all that they need is either financing or some assistance with overcoming some regulatory matters or overcoming perhaps some resistance from part of the population, or they need to have a better dialogue to local communities or to governments at a regional level. So there are some things that are missing to make these projects investable. And the main aim of ERMA would be to provide those missing links so that these potential projects can actually materialize and become a reality. So the case-specific consultation will take place within ERMA to select and prioritize cases and projects to secure raw material supply for Europeans' industrial ecosystems, install an investment platform that will bring investors and investees together, and then define case-specific strategies and assess EU funding opportunities and financing resources. So the source of the funding will come both from the Commission, but also from regional governments and also from private investors. When we look specifically at the role of digitalization in the European Raw Materials Alliance, this is not going to be a specific cluster focused on a value chain, but it's going to go across the different clusters that will be defined, because it is really an activity that goes across the different value chains. So digitalization will be a key horizontal activity of ERMA and will be instrumental for achieving a reduction in demand, for achieving circularity, decarbonization, and traceability. And in this slide, you have just a few examples of what we mean by that. So through digitalization, we can achieve a reduction in the demand by coordinating better the use of certain items. So for example, cars in this particular cartoon. Digitalization is crucial, as we have heard before, and as we all know, to achieve and boost the design for the circular economy and the circularity in general. In a similar way, it will be absolutely essential to achieve a higher level of decarbonization, increase energy efficiency, use low or no carbon feedstocks or fuels, and have products, innovative products with lower carbon footprints. And it's also absolutely essential, and this is going to be a very strong focus of the European Raw Materials Alliance, on increasing our ability to trace the provenance of the materials that go into the different products, so that we can understand how transactions are happening in a more transparent way, so that we can verify that the different materials indeed come from a sustainable source, and so that we can evaluate what is the true cost of a product when we take into account not only the production cost, but also the environmental and the social cost. So I will leave you with a picture that shows our website, erma.eu. In there you will find a lot of information on how the alliance has developed. Also a declaration that states essentially the philosophy behind of ERMA, and of course everyone is welcome to join and to take part in the consultation process and in the investment cases that will be developed over the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Massimo, for this very clear presentation. I'm very happy also to see that the digitalization, recycling and circular economy is featuring very strongly on the program of ERMA. We have also asked Holger Berg to give a short reaction and dive a bit into his views upon investment needs within this perspective. So we go back to Holger Berg for a short 3 minutes reaction.
Thank you very much, Carl, and thank you very much, Massimo, for your presentation. Indeed, it is interesting times ahead, and I think first of all, we need to make sure that the strategies we use are the right ones and are in place. So first of all, I think what we need to tackle is, given the projections that you've shown us on the amount of material that will be needed, how can we make sure, or can we make sure that maybe it is less than is projected now? That is, we need to make sure that the strategies we use can create an economy that is as prosperous, creating as much, as you said, economic, environmental, and social positive impact, but preferably be less burdensome on the environment. For that, we may need to lower the demand, decrease the projections there. And to achieve that, we need ourselves to be informed much better on different levels. One is information and in choosing what to do. So next to resource efficiency, as you've rightfully said, there are other strategies in sustainability, closing cycles. Also have a look at what really is needed and make informed choices on where resources are used best. And then also create hierarchy in the strategies between mining, as you've shown, circular economy, and so forth, and make sure that the strategies that are prioritized are those with the least environmental and social burden. It also means that if we look into the future, we have to make sure that we lose as few products and materials as possible. That is, we have to make sure that we constantly tap into the cycles, make sure circles exist, and make sure that we can retrieve material from the human warehouse or from the urban mine. We also need to make sure that we see innovation as something that is happening across societies, across Europe, and across supply chains. So we need to look more into cross-innovation. And indeed, I should not say supply chains, I should say cycles and circles. So summing up, I think we need to make sure that the strategies that we pursue are the right ones, starting with how can we make informed and enlightened choices on demand? How can we make sure that the strategies are the right ones, that we use them in the right way, that we adapt them in the right way, and that the way we use and create our economy for the next 15 years are indeed as circular, as resource efficient, and as sustainable as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Holger, for this reaction. Let's move back to the full panel and also make some time for the questions that are coming in through the Q&A session. Maybe we first can ask for a short reaction back from Epson and Huawei about this proposal. And for me, more specifically, the question is, so on the one hand, is ERMA provides an investment platform. So where do you see these investment needs? Or also, do you as a company already feel this fact that there is a pressure on raw materials and that there is indeed this dependency from a European perspective on raw material supplies? Maybe first those questions. Mr. Weigel, maybe first.
Yeah, thank you. Massimo, very, very interesting. Congratulations. Now, first of all, I speak as a European passport holder. I think you pointed out that we in Europe don't have so many raw materials, and it's absolutely the right thing to do to look into the future. And I also like your statistics at the beginning about e-cars in the future. So the question is really, where should all the material come from if we don't go into a more circular economy? As I'm research, I cannot so much comment on the investment part and on the business part, but I wanted actually to ask you one question. You also said quite at the beginning that there are also many new materials. I saw the list: copper, lithium, and we know all them. But you said there are also many new materials out there which are not yet used. And I would just like them, when we have a little bit of time, that you shortly give an insight. What do you think about it? Because this may be very interesting for us in research to look into it. As I said in the former part of the panel, we are doing material research for sure. And then it's very clear we have to work together for the decarbonization and to reduce the demand, to reduce the losses. And one other thing I wanted actually to offer, maybe I can later come back to you whether we can become a member of the EIT here and join you. The traceability and the transparency, I think this is certainly something. We are an IT and communication ICT company where, for instance, IoT, Internet of Things approaches may help a lot to get here more transparency, and also you set the real cost to see what is really going on. I think it's a very interesting research topic.
Maybe first reaction from Massimo, and then we go to Henning.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, there's a lot of material there to respond to, and definitely I look forward to having a more thorough conversation with you. First of all, on the new materials. So what we are talking about here is elements that were in the past discarded as waste. I'm talking about indium, for example. There was no indium, no use for indium until very recent time. The only use was in labs as a standard for certain types of analysis and in nucleation to make rain. And it's only in recent time that indium has become a very important component in mobile phones, as you know very well. I'm also talking about rare earth elements. When I did my PhD, they were a curiosity mostly for petrologists and geochemists. And their use in industry was very, very limited. And as we know today, they are on top of the list of the critical raw materials, and they are used in many, many applications, especially in permanent magnets and motors, which are absolutely ubiquitous now. So in that case, it's not that they were not there in the first place, but the amount that was in the circle was absolutely infinitesimal compared with the demand that we have today. And then, of course, we have a whole range of hybrid engineered materials. So I'm thinking about especially lightweight materials that are used in many types of industries, where there is a need for certain elements which, again, they were not used in particularly large amounts in the past. So hence the need to obtain some of these materials and get them in the cycle in the first place. To also respond to Holger, absolutely, I totally agree with you. In the first slide that I show, we have only 3 different types of products. And already, if we wanted to satisfy that projection of the increase in demand, we really will need to think about mining on the moon and asteroids and Mars, which is what some people are doing at this stage. So the first stage is really to decrease the demand, to use the things in a more efficient way and in a more thoughtful and fairer way. Absolutely with you, and that is everybody's responsibility. It's obviously the citizen responsibility, and again, one of the important goals of ERMA will be to sensibilize people and help them understand what is actually needed, and help them understand what are the consequences of having so many things in our household and having so many cars and using so many facilities and traveling so much and so on and so forth. So,
Mr. Olson, maybe we could get back to you also on your view on this. You already tapped a bit into this idea of dematerializing and owning less material. Which other reaction do you have here?
Yeah, that's Massimo. I cannot agree more than to your statements. Yeah, but actually, they say we have to switch the strategy or change the strategies, business strategies. Yeah, I'm speaking here for the business, from the transactional business, buy, sell, to the more value-based business model. And that starts, and I like the picture you have in the background, Massimo, closing the full cycle, closing the full loop. What is missing is the upcycling. Keeping material as long as possible, not only the recycling, but putting that into production back again. Cradle to cradle thinking. This is what the Epson circular economy and life cycle management means. Carl, you had the question on pressure. Is there any pressure from consumers, from society, and so far? Quite an interesting question, because if we go to plastics, yes, everybody speaks about microplastic, ocean, and so far, but during pandemic times, COVID, oil prices very, very low. So, and producers tend to go very much into virgin plastic instead of recycled PET. This is a real a downside again out of COVID. Yeah, it's getting so cheap to use virgin plastic over recycled plastic. Yeah, this is probably a very burning topic. At Epson, yes, we use recycled material in the packaging as well, consumer packaging, and yeah, that is the clear direction within our company on circularity. Another topic is, and this is what you mentioned as well, is the social aspect. Yeah, what are the real costs? Are we producing on the shoulders of Far East workforces? Epson, as a Japanese company, we produce in China, we produce in Indonesia, we produce on the Philippines, but in our own factories. And this is Epson factory. This is labor conditions at the Epson Japanese standard, UN Global Compact, the Responsible Business Alliance, TCO, and this goes not only, and they come to raw material, not only into our own production, but into the suppliers and into the suppliers of those suppliers. We are auditing here, and that gives us, with these certifications, a good feeling that we all of these raw material topics we work on the good side, as I mentioned earlier as well.
Yeah.
But again, true costs of a product. This is the next important discussions. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
maybe to tap into a little bit into the plastic still, because I see that there are several questions on that coming in. Also referring back to Mr. Weigel and about the bioplastics that you mentioned. People ask for a bit more of detail there about which type of bioplastics, are they biodegradable, to which extent do you look, how do you see this, also the discussion, bio-based versus biodegradable? What type of plastics do you aim for there?
Mm-hmm. To make it a little bit more concrete, so we use mainly, I think, about 1/3 of our bioplastics extracted from castor oil. And actually, sorry, I'm not the expert now in the materials itself. I looked more at, for our discussion, on the greenhouse gas emissions, and we think that we could, with this, about 62% reduction achieve compared to the plastic we have used before, like virgin crude oil plastic.
Interesting. Yeah, there's many questions coming in, and one interesting question is also the link maybe back a bit to the COVID crisis. We've seen that COVID has been a driver for digitalisation, for servitization. Do you also think that it's a driver for circularity? Do you think that the current situation helps us also to move closer to a circular system? This is maybe a question first for Holger, because I see you smile a little bit when hearing this question. How do you see this?
Yeah, indeed. In June, we did a small study or analysis for the German Ministry of the Environment on the connection between COVID, the environment, and digital. And from my point of view, up until now, I would not say that the COVID crisis has been an accelerator for circular economy. Indeed, we see larger waste piles, specifically in packaging. And much of the improvement of digitization, which in fact we do see, has happened in communications and data transfer. So hasn't reached so much the material side of the economy and the industrial side of the economy, as it has enabled us to do video conferences or data streaming. Nevertheless, what we see is now that we do learn a lot. We learned a lot about how we behave. We have changed our behavior in a very, very short time. We have created a very different basis for working together digitally. And I see this more as a chance to accelerate things now on this basis that otherwise may have taken much more time. So for example, in Germany, the capacity of data centers has increased in a couple of days, what otherwise would have been an increase of more than a year. We have to make sure that we use this basis now to create the circular economy and not forego this opportunity.
Thank you. I'm picking one more or a few questions up again, which relate to the role of SMEs. We're talking to two big international companies here. So I would like to have your opinion, but also from Irma maybe. What is the role of SMEs in this whole transformation? How do you relate as a large company towards what's happening in SMEs, and how do you see their role in this transition to circular digital economy? Who wants to take this question?
Maybe I can answer first. Extremely important, because one thing is clear. Yes, we are a global company, but saying this, we have so many cooperation partners and suppliers in the SME arena, not only in Germany, Europe, but all over the world. So we have to make sure that we include them and not exclude them. Saying this, I think that especially, again, ICT, so especially telecommunication, which got a hype during now the virus crisis. Yeah, we are all not present physically. That it makes this easier to integrate the SMEs. Because what we know, I used to be for several years the head of ETSI, the European Telecom Standardization. It's not so easy for small companies even to travel to standardization meetings. And I think we touched also on standards. They will be very important, I think, in this relation. So it makes life certainly easier, but we have to do everything to include them. And by the way, I didn't touch on this, but I think since 2014, we in Huawei, we have also a global supplier program where we include the suppliers and ask them to reduce their CO2 footprint. And I looked just at the sum of the figures over the last years, and for sure it's not the same level every year, but it's every year between 50 and 80,000 tons, what we have achieved so far, reduction per year. Yep. And we cannot exclude the SMEs here. Okay.
Mr. Olsen, maybe you first. How you see this role of SMEs integration as a company from Epson's side with SME work?
Yes, we're doing most of our business with small, medium companies, because we can convince them about the green IT concept within their companies. Yeah, and it's much easier to speak to the owner of that company than to the IT director of a multinational company. IT director of a multinational company will have not so much of a ear or good understanding of what energy saving and sustainability concept means. Yeah, and profit with purpose. This is how we bring our partners, resellers, into the position to sell in the value strategy, sustainability thinking. Yeah, not features, not price. Everybody can sell via price, but selling the values, this is important, and this is a topic for SMB. Yeah. the question earlier on packaging, yeah, there are a lot of research now during coronavirus, the impact on packaging. Yes, this has increased. Not only for hygienic purposes. A mask is in a plastic cover, but e-tail as well. Yeah, you do the shopping on the not in the local store retailer, but into the e-tail, and this is a increased amount of packaging.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is the downside, yeah? And that goes back into the consumer behavior. Yeah, why do I need to have 2 pieces of T-shirts instead of 1 when I send 1 back?
No.
1L, 1M. Yeah, this is the very simple behavior of us as consumers. Yeah, we are responsible as well, not only the producers.
Yeah, we're running short of time, so maybe let me go one last time to Massimo shortly on this question of SMEs and the integration of SMEs into your ERMA alliance.
Yeah, sure. So as EIT Raw Materials is, it is really in our DNA to boost the activities of SMEs and startups. And of course, they will be very strongly integrated within the context of ERMA. Just to give you an idea, at this stage, we have over 300 industry partners and associations that have joined. And many of these are SMEs and also startups as well. And I like the concept that has been expressed by the other speakers in terms of having this symbiosis between SMEs and large industries, because SMEs bring the agility, they bring the level of innovation that is very easy to have at that level. So it's very important to continue this symbiosis, and we'll definitely foster it.
Thank you. Okay, very interesting. There's a lot of questions still open from our very broad audience, as I can see. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to dive into that more. The panelists can also check them probably in the Q&A session. If you feel like you want to respond to them, please get in contact through the platforms that we're using for the conference. I want to thank you for this interesting debate. We've touched upon a variety of topics, a broad variety of topics, but I think that's also the nature of a closing debate, is also the nature of the topic that's in the theme that we were talking about. Thank you very much again, Dr. Weigel, Massimo Gasparon, Dr. Olsen, Dr. Berg, for your presence here and for providing insights.